We're going to change lanes right now and talk about grief. It's a natural response to loss. It's the emotional suffering you feel when something or someone is taken away. While most of us associate grief with the death of a loved one, it can also be the loss of a home. And with more than 72,000 homes destroyed in New Jersey alone after Superstorm Sandy, there is a lot of grieving going on. Now, to talk more, we are joined by crisis counselor and art therapist Cindi Westendorf. And your company is 180 Turning Lives Around. Tell me what you do. I know you worked with a lot of children, especially after the 9/11 terrorist attacks.
Yes, I do. I really work with trauma and looking at community loss after a disaster. It's really important to realize that people, even though sometimes it's very individual, when things happen like Superstorm Sandy, it's really the whole community that becomes affected. And every person is vulnerable in a disaster, and the effects become very widespread.
Talk to me about some of the things that you're seeing, especially with the young kids.
I think right now is the fear of the unknown, that sometimes, we have to keep in mind that children will automatically mimic the vulnerability of the adults around them. So certainly the work is to look at families, very importantly as a whole. How are the adults coping around them? What is the situation in terms of what does that loss encompass? So the way that a child will respond to a disaster or something traumatic happening in their lives really depends on so many factors. It's what is their direct exposure to that loss? Were they there and had to be evacuated or carried out of waters? Did they watch their parents really kind of fall apart? Was there a separation from the family at the time of an evacuation? So all those factors play a direct result in what we see.
Is it important for parents especially to remain calm and set the tone?
Absolutely. I think that, it's the reason that crisis counseling is blanketing the state, and we have disaster response counselors all over New Jersey and New York, is that we want people to understand that they need to reach out and get the help, and the help's available for them to get.
Well, you can't even imagine the folks overseas, 72,000 homes just in New Jersey alone. So there's well over possibly 1 million people that are suffering right now. So what do you explain when people come into you? What are some of the key points you like to make?
Well, I think it's really addressing the emotional consequence for them. So what is causing them the most stress at any one point? We know that at the beginning of a disaster, people rally. Everybody comes around. There's all sorts of, thousands of pounds of food and clothing and everything that people need to meet their basic needs. And certainly that crisis counseling part of response is very important. But what's more important is how it moves from the crisis counseling intervention into long-term recovery needs. And we're seeing the anger, the depression, maybe increase in substance abuse. And those are the issues that need to be addressed and need to be funded so that we can continue that intervention.
Is it different for kids? Do they go through the same thing, the anger, the sorrow? Do they fully understand?
I think it can be very much the same process. The difference with children is that they don't always have the words to express those intense feelings. So what we will see is behaviors, maybe some isolation or withdrawal for a child that was usually more social. Maybe they're just acting out. So it can be on the opposite end of that spectrum, where they really are just feeling so disorganized externally that internally they don't know how to sort of order that chaos. And that's where the counseling and trauma-focused intervention is important.
And I know you also do a lot with art therapy.
I do. I think that the creative arts intervention, I'm certainly biased because I've been doing it for a very long time, but what we do know from research is that trauma is stored in the part of our brain that is not easily accessible by words. So by using graphic imagery, drawing, painting, sculpting, retelling your story graphically, it helps to reduce the post-traumatic stress from any sort of trauma.
All right, Cindi Westendorf from 180 Turning Lives Around. Do you have a website so we can learn a little bit more?
We do, 180nj.org. We'll talk about the organization that is in Monmouth County, New Jersey, that serves people throughout the county.
And certainly an area that was very hard hit.
Absolutely.
Cindi, thank you so much for being on Ebru Today. We'll have you back and talk some more.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks so much.